Hey, what's up, good people? How you doing? Welcome back to Stock Up with Larry Jones. Go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. And let's just talk about some of the things that's happening with this market. Sorry, good people. I am trying this new gadget with forward lens. So it's just I'm looking at a smaller screen. So forgive me if I'm not centered, my OCD. Listen, let's talk about a few things, and then I want to talk about something that's very important at the end. There we go. All right, so listen, we had a lot of events to take place on last week. We had PCE. This past week we had, there is a room for the Fed to decrease interest rates, and if you ask me, it's more. So we had a lot of Fed, like the Chicago Fed. You have all of these other Feds. There's a board, and a lot of them, most of them, I've listened to like 3 of them talk, and they were sounding dovish. They were sounding really dovish and kind of expressing how they feel the Fed has room to do 3 rate cuts, right? And one was saying that, not just by 25 basis points. And so this is what's happening with these Feds, right? Now, a lot of people, some people think that it's a ploy to kind of get the word out. And I do believe that it's called jawboning, where you use your mouthpiece as a tool. And I believe it's a coordinated effort by the Fed, period, to kind of get the word out and try to whip the market into what he sees as a reason to either hold, raise, or decrease. So I think that it is room to decrease. And the PCE number, if you ask me, was a bit confusing to many, right? But we know that the Fed really looks at the PCE. So you really have to really go into the PCE and kind of break it down into what is really important and what isn't. All right. And so we're just going to leave that at that. But let's talk about the overall stock market. Stock market is strong, good people. So you saw Friday where the president said he was just going to not do a deal right now with Canada, because Canada has this tax on pretty much our big tech companies, and they have a tax on them, and it was due like immediately, right away. I believe it was coming up really soon where the due date was. And it was kind of funny to me for him to say, how dare you, when we're doing the same thing. And this is going to lead to my point, my greater point of making this message. Or should I say this video? So what I'm going to say to you guys is that this whole scenario with the tariffs and it bringing down the entire market, and then the stays, and then, okay, I'm going to have these tariffs, and then we have these stays and these pushbacks like 30 days, 90 days. It's just been whipsawing the market. And I know a lot of you guys are just tired. But I will tell you this. If you look at every single time there was an attack, every single time that there was a new tariff, on a country, we got the EU, we got Canada, and we got China. China and the EU, if you ask me, being the biggest. Every single time, and that was a tariff war. Every time there was the onset of war, it was a buying opportunity. Every single time. And the question is, what are you going to do with that information the next time something happens, right? Now look at the stock market. I was paying close attention to the NASDAQ, the SPY in the NASDAQ on Friday. So it was mooning. Right after PCE came out, the numbers went up a little higher, and then they slowly started to drift a little bit, right? And then midday, when this back and forth between Canada and the US, and the president saying, hey, all bets are off, the market tanked. went down. The Qs went down. The NASDAQ just took a dive. And then what happened before closing bell? It came back, showing that the market is resilient. The market. So good people, my phone went hot. So I'm just going to finish this. All right. So every single time there was a dip in the market, in some way, shape, or form or fashion, it was a buying opportunity, whether it be stocks and or crypto, right? And so what have you learned if you're new to investing? That the onset of war, even if it's a war of words, even if it's a tariff war, was a signal to essentially buy. All right. Now, having said that, I believe that there could be a short-term pullback coming soon, like in the next week or so. And if it doesn't, then, good, right? I'm just going to say good. This is not 100%. I'm positive. But if it does, I'm going to use it as a buying signal. I'm going to use it as a buying opportunity because Larry believes that it's going to lead to gains later on. And I'm not afraid to buy when things are dipping. Okay. And so that's where I am with this whole situation. So I'm talking about stocks and crypto, mainly Bitcoin. All right. When it comes to crypto, right. I'm going to look for a pullback in crypto and I'm going to go in heavy in Bitcoin. Remember, anything I say is not a suggestion for you to buy, hold, or sell. But I'm just here on this platform that I'm grateful for, this platform, YouTube, for allowing me to talk to you. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. Now, you have to plan out accordingly. Again, short term, I believe that we'll have a short-term pullback. I believe that there'll be a recovery, and I believe that the markets will end higher this year, both stocks and crypto, until or unless something happens, right? That's what it looks like today to Larry Jones. And I'm just speaking for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. Remember, you got to do your own research to see what you're going to do. I'm going to continue to share bits and pieces here of what I'm doing. If you want to see totally or fully what I'm doing, join us in Money Moves, right? That's going to be the only link in this video today. Now, let me talk about what I really want to talk about, good people. And what I'm going to say, I'm saying this in love as I'm under these trees with these birds. What I'm going to say in love. And I was going to talk about taking care of yourself, but this is what's on my spirit today. And I say this in love for everyone. And please listen to everything that I'm going to say, because if you only listen to a piece, it's not going to make any sense, or you're not going to get the full story. Now, for those of you that look like me in cities, like the city I come from, born and raised, Chicago, you watched the powers that be bring in people from other countries, pay 5 to 9 times as much to bring them here than it normally costs, whether it was a plane ticket or a bus ticket. Research it. You watch them house, feed, clothe, give them money and build them, put them in hotels and build tents for them, and skip over you that's been here, that's been paying taxes, that's been struggling. They allow other people from other countries come and set up businesses and get tax deductions, but they won't do it for you. And I'm talking to those of you that look like me, that live in these neighborhoods, right? And some of you are not looking at that and saying what's going on, but there's a big portion of us that are looking at that and saying, hey, this is not right, right? Now, let's look at what's going on now. Now you have the powers that be. Let's go back. And then those powers that be that brought these people in fight tooth and nail for a quote unquote, reportedly a criminal to come back with all of the crime that's going on. They fight tooth and nail to have what they deem as a criminal, what some deem as a criminal. And that's what all the focus is. This poor guy. And the facts are coming out, quote unquote criminal. And I'm for due process. But here's the whole story, what I'm saying. There's a big pendulum that is swinging left and right. And it swung real hard to the left. Now this pendulum is swinging hard to the right. And now here we have, instead of the powers that be going after the criminals and getting them out of here, now the powers that be are ripping apart families. And no one likes to see that on either side, especially most of us free thinking individuals in the middle. And now they're ripping these tax-paying that's been here for 10, 20, 30 years, no records of doing anything wrong. And they're ripping these families apart and shipping people to places they haven't been. All right. Hold your comments until you hear the whole thing. And now the pendulum is swinging to the far right. And I want to let you know that this is nothing new. This has happened throughout mankind for thousands of years. And I want to tell you this. When you don't know what to do and you're left to your own devices, I want you to research what scripture says about a man left to his own devices. I want to tell you that when man is left to his own devices, you need to search for truth. And the truth is in the scriptures. So don't react off of what you would do. React off of what God will do. Remember, what would Jesus do? What you are doing and feeling and saying right now is not necessarily what Jesus would do. So our homework is to search the scriptures and see what would Jesus do. Read the scriptures, right? And so we are faced with tough choices. And what I'm saying to you in a time and a season like this, whether you're on one side of the aisle or the other, or you see things clearly for yourself and you don't align with any of them, you see the wrong in both of them, right? Search the scriptures and see what God would do, because what God would do is not necessarily what you would do. So I want your answer to this to be something biblical, and not from a seat of judgment, but a seat of compassion and what Jesus would do or what God would do. Some of the things that I'm seeing is just not right. And it's not what God would do. It's not what God have us to do. And it's not what Jesus would do. And I say this with love for everyone. So search the scriptures. And if you don't know, don't comment. Open your Bible and read. As a matter of fact, Google what happens when man is left to his own device. I want you to read that. I want you to Google, what will man do when he's left to his own devices, and see what Google says about it. And some of you will be shocked, okay? And so that's what I want to say. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, turn from their wicked ways, seek my face. And so if we want our land healed, in all of this, there is a message, and that's to turn back to God, okay? I'm Larry Jones, Stock Up with Larry Jones. This is my inspiration for today. And I say this in love. This is not hate. This is love for all people. I put people over politics, and I put God over all people. I love you. I don't care who you are, where you are, what side of the aisle you stand on, male or female. I have love for you. And God has more love for you than any man could ever have, all right? That's my inspiration for the day, and I do not apologize for it, all right? Love you guys. We'll see you later.